for Vermilion-Lloydminster.
Well, Mr. Speaker, recently the Finance Minister trumpeted how the indexed exemption amounts on Alberta's income taxes were yet another example of how this government is making life better for Albertans. You know, it sounds wonderful, but the minister is taking credit for something he had nothing to do with. It kind of reminds me of the ranchers I used to do work for who said how great their calves looked until I pointed out that the calves all looked like the neighbor's bull. But I digress. To the minister, are you claiming that indexing the exemption amount to inflation is something you came up with, or are you simply taking credit for something that was done by the previous government?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We carried on something that was done by the previous government, but we carried it on because we know that we don't want to see incomes be further eroded. It's important. We expanded it, Mr. Speaker. We had the choice not to expand it to the lower income peoples, but we did, and we'll continue to do that.
Well, Mr. Speaker, given that a two-income family with 2 children and a household income of $105,000 will pay $100 less income tax thanks to this measure that the minister had nothing to do with, and given that the same family will pay roughly $400 more in carbon taxes that this minister had everything to do with, given that the minister is only telling Albertans half the story, the $100 part and not the $400 part to the minister, when can we expect your department to issue a press release to correct the error you've made?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I won't be issuing a press release on Friday afternoon or any other time, I can tell you, because there is no need to introduce a press release. You know, Mr. Speaker, we are making life more affordable for Alberta families. We are cutting school fees. We are freezing tuition. We are doing things like capping electricity rates. That side made life more expensive. We're making it cheaper for Albertans.
Second supplemental.
Well, Mr. Speaker, given that this government brags about a $7.5 billion tax advantage over the next lowest tax jurisdiction in Canada, and that this advantage will grow to $8.7 billion this year, but of course they had nothing to do with that either, and given that this advantage was $11 billion when this government took office to the Finance Minister, is this taxation advantage that you inherited and have already eroded by 1/3 something that you try to maintain, or is this just the room that you have to play with before Alberta is no longer the lowest taxed jurisdiction in the country?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I know we've all been here for a while, 2 years, but you know, there's been a recession in this province for 2 years. Is that side not been aware that it's been the toughest recession? We've contracted 3.5% on our GDP in 2015 and 16. We didn't cause it. We're fixing it. We're bringing diversification into this province. We've got the backs of Albertans, and we're investing across this province. That'll get us back.